Let's dive into a preview of Dune Awakening's modular system when it comes to vehicles. There are an absolute ton of vehicles in Dune Awakening, ranging from copper level products all the way down to plastanium level products. What's up everybody, my name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. Most of your early journey and maybe even later on in the game, you're going to spend a lot of time in vehicles. We've all seen the ornithopters and possibly the buggies, but I think where you're going to spend most of your time is right here on these sand bikes. So I want to break down researching them, fabricating them, and then putting them together. First off, we have the research system. Each one of these requires you to research them prior to being able to fabricate them. You can see there's a Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, and all the way down, we actually have Mark 6. And each one of these are going to require different types of resources in order to craft them. Right now, I have access to Mark 1 and then additionally Mark 2. Now, once you've researched them, they are going to be crafted on your main fabricator. So you can see we have the Mark II items there. We have a unique engine as well. This is an Imperial blueprint. It's a one-time use, and I found this while exploring the world. As we scroll down, you see that we also have the Mark I parts available for fabrication. There are other items in here as well. We have the Mark I welding torch, which you are going to need in order to assemble your sand bike. We also have the vehicle backup tool, which is a very handy piece of equipment, and I'll show you how that works a little bit later on. Now, the early level sand bikes, Mark I and Mark II, can be crafted on the fabricator. However, it appears that once you reach steel level products, you will need to have a vehicle fabricator for additional vehicles. And then again at Plastanium, you can see there is another vehicle fabricator that has to be created in order to make those vehicles. We're not going to focus on how many benches will be required in order to do this. Today, I just want to focus on the actual vehicles. You can see we have a couple of sand bikes here, and if we walk up to them, you have three different interactions. You have inter-vehicle, more, and quick deposit on this vehicle. If we look at this one, we only have inter-vehicle and more. That's because the attachments for these two vehicles are different. This one has a rear seat, so I can take a buddy along with me. This one actually has storage. Let's take a look at more real quick. You can see we have enter driver, refuel, manage vehicle, and open inventory. There's nothing currently in the inventory, so instead we'll look at manage vehicle. This is where you can look at all the information about your vehicle. You can see it gives you a quick breakdown of the durability of each one of your parts. Tells you which parts are attached. So we have a Mark I on everything in this vehicle, except for the inventory is actually a Mark II. That's right, you can mix and match. Just because you have some Mark I parts doesn't mean you can't use some Mark II, Mark III, possibly even Mark IV, or all the way up to Mark VI parts. Moving on to the second tab, you can see we have our storage here. And then if we move to the third tab, you can see we have access. Now it's very easy to add people to the bike permission list. This means that they can access your inventory, they can ride your bike, whatever they want to do with it, they're able to do that. And you can simply remove people or add them back in, and you can even change their permission levels. Now there are also bikes that you can find in the world. This one happens to be a bike that I found in the open world. If we manage it, you can see this is a scrap sand bike tread. Everything on here says that it's scrap. Now these bikes are really out there just for you to get from point A to point B in a pinch. However, once you have the bike, you can dismantle the entirety of the bike or replace parts that may be damaged, like the sand bike chassis. We'll fabricate a sand bike chassis for this bike so that we can actually replace it. We're going to use our welding torch to replace that part. Let me show you how to dismantle a sand bike if you need to swap out different parts. Some parts you can swap out very easily, like the treads. Those can be done right away. On the right hand side, you're going to move down to detach, and you can see different parts being highlighted. But if you want to tread, that's very easy. You can just pop that off of there and then pop a new one back on. If you need to get all the way down to the hull like I do, you have to disassemble the entire bike. So we'll just start that process. And there you go, we've disassembled an entire bike, and that actually is a way to get vehicles out of the list of vehicles that you can have. You can have a total of 10 vehicles at any point in time. Just remember that anytime you disassemble an entire bike, you are going to lose whatever fuel is in that bike. Hope it's not pumpkin. So let's assemble a sand bike real quick. This is very easy. All you need is the welding tool, and then you're going to need a chassis, a bike PSU, an engine, 3 of the treads, and we actually have to point at it, and then you're going to need the hull, and then whatever attachments you want to place on top of that. So there's one for a forward attachment and one for a rear attachment. The forward attachment and rear attachment are not required in order for your sand bike to work. Once you've placed the sand bike down on the ground, approach the sand bike, interact, and refuel the sand bike. Once you have the sand bike refueled, it will display the status of the fueling, but you can jump on your bike at that point in time, set it as your respawn point, and drive to your heart's desire. At any point in time during your adventures, if the sand bike inventory is empty, you can store the bike with the vehicle backup tool and replace it at any point in time with the same tool. Now, in order to repair your bike, you're going to need the welding tool as well as ammo. I am using copper wire, so equip the welding tool with the wire in your inventory, and now we can start on these repairs. You simply go to repair, and then you can see visually how much is there to be repaired. The red section is not repairable. That is durability lost from when you make repairs. The green line is then how much durability it has remaining, and if I hold the button on here, you can see it repairs it, but I also lose some durability overall. Let's talk about customization. If you want to use different swatches on your vehicle, you simply point at the place that you want to use a swatch. You can see there we have a swatch selected. Here we don't, so we can scroll over and click that, and that'll change that to that swatch. Let's go ahead and roll through a bunch of different swatches here for each one of the parts. There you go. You can see we have a much different looking bike there. And we can then just go back and change it all. This does not cost any resources. Now, just so you know, when you are on the open desert, the worm is going to be attracted to your bike. This bike, the Mark 1, the Mark 2, even with the booster, is not going to be able to just straight up outrun the sandworm when he decides to come after you. So when you're riding your bike across the open sand like I am here, you want to always be pointing towards a rock outcrop. When this sandworm comes, he's going to come in fast if he decides to go after me here, but you always want to be pointed to one of those areas so that you don't end up getting caught in the sandworm's mouth. You cannot outrun the sandworm in the Mark 1 or the Mark 2. Maybe later on you'll be able to outrun him, but at least for now it is not possible in either one of those bikes. But as long as you're not goofing around on the open sand, you should be fine to go from rock outcrop to rock outcrop and avoid getting eaten by the sandworm. When you're storing your vehicles, you want to make sure they are enclosed. They need to at least be sheltered in order to not decay. So if we take a look at the info on this bike, you can see decay is safe. So the bike is not going to disappear on its own. If we head outside where we are not water sealed, but we are sheltered, and we take a look at the info on this bike, you can see it also says decay is safe. However, if we literally drive it just outside of the base where it says unsheltered, there's my base, there's the bike, and we go to the inventory, you can see that anytime you leave it out, it is at risk. Now, there are sandstorms that happen on a regular basis, and the sandstorm is going to do major damage to your bike if you don't have it in a sheltered area. That's why you'll see garages like this at the trading post so that you can park your bike inside, and you can see it says sheltered there on the left. That means my bike is safe when it's parked here. Now, when you're in the open world doing content, you're not always going to want to back up your vehicle, which is the safest way to save your vehicle. Just use the backup tool. However, you can find outcroppings that you can park your bike under, like this one, that is going to give it the sheltered buff and keep it safe from the storm. This also allows you to have it as a respawn point should you die in any of the interactions that you're currently doing. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't be out of whack. There's another video on the screen right now that you can click to support more of my content.